The forgotten D-Day laboratory at the edge of hope. The medical laboratory flickered with dying lights as Velker checked his dwindling supplies one final time. His three-fingered hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from the progressive weakness that plagued every Xanathi alive. Through the crystalline walls of his research station, he could see the violet storms that had become constant on Xanath Prime, the beautiful world of his ancestors, was slowly suffocating under atmospheric changes that no one understood and no one could stop. Velker was a geneticist, one of the few remaining scientists still working to find answers. But answers required resources, and resources were something his people no longer possessed. The Xanathi had been a prosperous civilization once, known throughout the galaxy for their medical advances and peaceful nature. They had helped dozens of species overcome diseases and genetic disorders, asking nothing in return except friendship and knowledge sharing. Now, when the Xanathi needed help, the galaxy had gone silent. The distress signal, emergency transmission, crackled through Velker's communication array just as he was preparing to shut down the laboratory for another day of failure. The message was in a language his translator struggled to process, but the desperation in the voice was universal. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth exploration vessel Prometheus. We have suffered catastrophic system failures. 3 crew members critically injured. Life support failing. If anyone can hear this, please respond. We are far from home. Velker's luminescent eyes widened. Humans. He had heard of them. A young species just beginning to explore beyond their solar system. Curious, brave, and according to reports, sometimes reckless. The translator indicated their ship was only 6 hours away, drifting on emergency thrusters. He should ignore it. His supplies were meant for Xanathi patients. Every medication, every diagnostic tool, every energy unit was precious. His people were dying by the thousands each day. Helping aliens would mean condemning some of his own. But Velker had not become a healer to make such calculations. He remembered the words his mentor had spoken decades ago. Medicine knows no borders, and compassion recognizes no species. We heal because healing is what makes us worthy of life. With steady hands, Velker activated his response transmitter and began organizing his remaining medical supplies. First, contact. Under crisis, the human ship was a damaged mess when it finally docked with Velker's station. Captain Chun stumbled out first, her face pale and streaked with blood. Behind her, 2 crew members carried a third on a makeshift stretcher. Another crew member limped, clutching a clearly broken arm. Thank God, Chun gasped. You responded. We thought we'd die out here. Velker guided them to his medical bay with gentle urgency. His translator worked better now, processing their language patterns. Lay the injured one here. I will assess the damage. Your ship? It can be repaired? Our engineer is working on it, but Martinez here took shrapnel from an exploding console. We think his lung is punctured, and Thompson's arm is shattered. We don't have the medical supplies for this. Velker examined the human called Martinez with practiced efficiency. The physiology was different from Xanathi biology, but the principles of trauma were universal. Punctured lung, internal bleeding, shock setting in. Without intervention, the human would die within hours. I can help, Velker said quietly. But you must understand something. My people are sick. These medicines I use for you are supplies we need desperately. Every dose I give you is one less for a Xanathi patient. Captain Chun's eyes filled with tears. Then we can't ask you to. I did not say I would not help, Velker interrupted gently. I said you must understand the cost. I choose to pay it. Now let me work. The long night of healing for 18 hours, Velker worked without rest. His advanced medical knowledge combined with the limited supplies he possessed allowed him to stabilize Martinez's lung and stop the internal bleeding. He set Thompson's arm with precision, using bone-knitting technology that would normally be saved for Xanathi children. He treated Shun's head wound and the engineer's radiation exposure from the damaged reactor. The humans watched in awe as the frail alien scientist moved with absolute focus, his luminescent skin dimming as his own energy depleted. They tried to help where they could, following his instructions despite not understanding the technology. When Martinez finally opened his eyes, stable and breathing normally, Sean approached Velker with trembling hands. "Why?" she asked simply. "Your people need this medicine." "Why save us?" Velker sat heavily, exhaustion overwhelming him. "Because kindness is not a resource to be hoarded. It is a light to be shared, even in darkness. Especially in darkness. My civilization taught the galaxy this lesson for centuries. If I forget it now, when my people suffer most, then what were we ever worth?" The gift of navigation. As the Prometheus crew completed repairs to their ship, Velker did something else that would echo through history. He downloaded complete star charts of safe routes back to Earth, along with detailed information about stable wormholes and friendly trading posts. He included medical data about various alien species, hoping it would help humanity avoid future disasters. "This information is valuable," Velker explained as he transferred the data. "It represents centuries of Xanathi exploration. I give it freely because your people should not suffer from ignorance when knowledge can protect you. Learn from it. Share it with others. Build a civilization that remembers helping strangers is never wasted effort." Captain Chun accepted the data crystal with reverence. "We'll remember this. Humanity will remember what you did for us. I swear it." Velker made a soft humming sound, the Xanathi equivalent of a sad smile. Many species promise to remember kindness. Few actually do when memory becomes inconvenient. But you seem sincere, Captain Shun. Perhaps humans are different. The departure and the recording. As the Prometheus prepared to depart, Velker recorded one final message in his personal log. He did not know if anyone would ever hear it, but documentation was a habit he could not break even as his civilization crumbled. Research log, Velker, Chief Geneticist. Station Color 7. Today I used our last reserves of cellular regeneration compounds to save 4 human lives. By tomorrow, 3 Xanathi patients in the capital city will die because these supplies are gone. The mathematics are cruel, but I do not regret my choice. If the Xanathi are to be remembered for anything, let it be that we held to our principles even at the end. The humans were grateful. Their captain made promises about remembering. I do not expect those promises to be kept. Species rarely repay old debts when new concerns arise. But perhaps I am wrong. Perhaps somewhere in the universe, there exists a species that truly never forgets kindness. Time will tell. He saved the log and sealed the data core, then watched through the crystalline walls as the human ship activated its repaired engines and jumped into faster-than-light travel. Velker never saw humans again. He died 6 months later, one among millions of Xanathi claimed by the plague that continued ravaging his species. His laboratory was abandoned, his research notes scattered, his personal logs archived in databanks that slowly degraded as civilization collapsed. For 43 years, those logs remained forgotten. Digital ghosts in dying computers. And then everything changed. 40-3 years later, the Discovery DR. James Morrison was not looking for historical records when he stumbled across Velker's logs. He was searching for information about Xanathi medical techniques for a comparative biology study. The Xanathi were nearly extinct now, reduced to a few thousand survivors scattered across refugee stations. Most species had written them off as a tragic loss, a civilization that had simply failed to adapt. Morrison was about to close the corrupted file when a phrase in the translation caught his attention. Saved 4 human lives, curious. He ran recovery protocols on the damaged data. It took 3 days to reconstruct Velker's final logs. When Morrison finally heard the gentle voice describing his choice to deplete precious supplies to save strangers, when he read the names, his hands began shaking. Captain Sarah Chun, Martinez, Thompson. The crew of the Prometheus. Morrison knew those names. Every human knew those names. Captain Chun had gone on to become Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. Martinez had founded the Human Space Medical Corps. Thompson had written the standard texts on xenobiology. The mission of the Prometheus had established humanity's reputation as trustworthy explorers, and it had only succeeded because a dying alien scientist had sacrificed his people's medicine to save them. Morrison sat in his laboratory, tears streaming down his face, and made a single call. Within an hour, the information reached Earth's High Command. Within 6 hours, it had spread across every human world. Within 12 hours, something unprecedented began to happen. Humanity remembered. And when humanity remembers, worlds shake. Asterisk. Production of the cure ramped up to unprecedented levels. Human pharmaceutical companies, working together for the first time in history, manufactured billions of doses. Distribution networks that normally competed now coordinated with military precision. Within 2 months, 70% of surviving Xanathi had received the treatment. Recovery rates exceeded 95%. Children who had been dying began to play again. Adults who had resigned themselves to death started rebuilding. The bioluminescent glow returned to Xanathi cities, transforming them from dim monuments to death into vibrant celebrations of survival. But not everyone celebrated humanity's actions. The Kridax Empire, an aggressive militaristic species, saw opportunity in the chaos. They had been eyeing Xanathi territory for years, waiting for the species to die out so they could claim the resource-rich worlds. Now, with humanity intervening, their plans were collapsing. Kridax warships appeared at the edge of the Xanath system. Their intentions clear. Admiral Rhodes received the Kridax commander's transmission with cold fury. The reptilian alien's face filled her screen, scales gleaming with arrogance. "Human Admiral, you are trespassing in territory the Kridax Empire has claimed by right of abandonment. Remove your vessels immediately, or we will remove them for you." Rhodes leaned forward, her voice deadly quiet. "Commander, let me explain something about humanity. When we make a promise, we keep it. When we owe a debt, we pay it. And when someone threatens those under our protection, we remind the galaxy why humans survived on a death world for millions of years." She gestured, and the display shifted to show 30 human warships emerging from hyperspace behind the Kridax fleet. Then 30 more. Then 50 more. Ships kept appearing until the Kridax fleet was completely surrounded. "These are not medical vessels, Commander," Rhodes continued. "These are our Navy's 3rd, 7th, and 9th fleets. Each ship is armed with weapons your intelligence has not seen because we had no reason to show them. We are a peaceful species. We prefer trade to war, cooperation to conquest. But we are also the species that evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We learned to fight before we learned to fly." The Kridax commander's scales paled slightly. "Here is what will happen," Rhodes said, her tone allowing no argument. "You will withdraw your fleet immediately. You will never threaten the Xanathi again. You will add humanity to the list of species you do not provoke. Because if you harm a single Xanathi, if you so much as enter their space without permission, we will teach you the difference between a species that fights for conquest and a species that fights for those who showed us kindness." The Kridax fleet withdrew without firing a shot. The ceremony of Remembrance 6. Months after the cure's deployment, Xanath Prime held its first planetary celebration in half a century. Nearly 3,000 Xanathi, now healthy and strong, gathered in the restored Grand Plaza. Thousands more joined via hologram from the colony worlds. Humanity had helped them establish. At the center of the plaza stood a memorial, a crystalline statue of Velker, created from recovered images. The statue's base was inscribed in both Xanathi and human languages. He gave everything so strangers might live. We give everything so his people might survive. This is what civilization means. Captain Sarah Chun, now 107 years old and still sharp-minded, stood before the memorial with tears streaming down her weathered face. Beside her stood the young Xanathi girl who had been the first to receive the cure. Now healthy and vibrant, the girl's mother, now serving as the Xanathi's elected leader, addressed the assembled crowd. For generations, we Xanathi believed we were the galaxy's healers and helpers. We gave freely of our knowledge and aid. When we needed help, the galaxy abandoned us. We learned a terrible lesson about the universe's true nature. She paused, her bioluminescence pulsing with emotion. Then humans reminded us that our lesson was incomplete. Yes, most species forget kindness when memory becomes inconvenient. But there exist beings who remember, who honor debts across decades, who measure civilization not in credits or territory, but in kept promises and protected lives. She turned to Captain Chun. Velker saved 4 humans and expected nothing. Humanity saved 3,000 Xanathi and asked only that we live. This is the meaning of true kindness, kindness that echoes across time, that transforms the universe, that proves some things matter more than survival. Chun stepped forward, her voice amplified across the plaza. Velker told me that many species promise to remember kindness, but few actually do. He was right about most species, but he underestimated humans. She smiled through her tears. We're stubborn creatures. When we make a promise, we keep it, even if it takes 43 years, even if it costs everything, because that's what makes us worthy of the life Velker gave us. Dr. Torres presented the Xanathi leader with a data crystal. This contains all of Velker's research, restored and preserved. It also contains humanity's complete medical database, given freely as he gave freely to us. We ask only what he asked, that you share it with others. That you build a civilization that remembers helping strangers is never wasted effort. The galactic shift, the rescue of the Xanathi, sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. For the first time in centuries, a species had mobilized entirely to save another species that offered no strategic advantage, no economic benefit, no political gain. Ambassador Marcus Liu addressed the council with barely contained contempt. For 43 years, the Xanathi died while this council debated costs and benefits. You let healers perish because saving them was economically unfeasible. You condemned an entire civilization because helping them was inconvenient. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives who had voted against Xanathi aid. Humanity spent 30% of our annual GDP to save them. Our people volunteered billions in private donations. Our scientists worked themselves to exhaustion. Our military stood ready to fight the Kridax Empire if necessary. Not because the Xanathi could repay us, not because we expected gratitude, but because one Xanathi scientist named Velker showed us what true civilization looks like. Liu's voice rose with passion. This council speaks of advanced civilization, of enlightened cooperation, of galactic community. But when your words were tested, they meant nothing. You let good people die while you calculated profit margins. You proved that your civilization is merely organized selfishness. He placed a document on the podium. Humanity is proposing a new galactic charter, the Velker Accord. Any species facing extinction or catastrophic disaster will receive immediate aid from all council members. No economic calculations. No strategic assessments. Just help. Because that is what actual civilization means. The council chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Species would be required to help others without guarantee of return. Resources would flow based on need rather than profit. The entire economic structure of galactic civilization would shift. The Quellan representative, remembering how her own grandmother had once helped lost humans, stood slowly. The Quellan support this accord. We remember when helping others without calculation was our civilization's pride. We wish to remember again. One by one, other species stood. Not all, but enough. The Velker Accord passed by a narrow margin, forever changing how the galaxy responded to crisis. Legacy of kindness 2 years after the cure's deployment. The Xanathi population had stabilized at 4,000 individuals. They established 3 colony worlds, rebuilt their medical schools, and began training a new generation of healers. But they did not train alone. Human and Xanathi students worked side by side in joint medical academies. They developed new treatments that combined Xanathi biological insight with human adaptive thinking. They created interspecies medical teams that responded to crises across the galaxy. The partnership became legendary. Wherever suffering existed, wherever beings needed help, Xanathi human medical ships appeared. They asked for nothing. They calculated no returns. They simply healed, because healing was what both species had learned to value above all else. Dr. Torres, now elderly herself, stood in the Velker Research Institute and watched young humans and Xanathi collaborate on curing a plague affecting the Delner species. The students worked with easy cooperation, sharing ideas and supporting each other's research. Velker would be proud, said a soft voice beside her. Torres turned to see the Xanathi leader, now a close friend. He would be proud of his people, Torres agreed. And maybe, just a little, proud of us too. He knew humans were different, the Xanathi leader said. He wrote in his logs that perhaps somewhere in the universe there existed a species that truly never forgot kindness. He hoped you were that species. Torres smiled. We're that species because he showed us how to be. He gave us life and taught us the value of giving life to others. That's a debt we'll spend forever trying to repay, not because we must, but because it makes us better than we were. As they watched the young scientists work, Torres thought about Velker's last log entry, about his hope that promises of remembrance might actually mean something. She thought about how one act of kindness, given without expectation, had transformed 2 civilizations and reshaped a galaxy. Asterisk. She thought about how the universe was full of species that made calculations, that weighed costs against benefits, that measured worth in credits and strategic advantage. And she thought about how humanity had chosen a different path, a harder path, a path lit by the memory of a dying scientist who had sacrificed everything for strangers. Mankind never forgets kindness. And when humanity remembers, worlds shake, civilizations transform, and the meaning of compassion echoes across the stars. The legacy of Velker lived on, not in monuments or memorials, but in every life saved, every hand extended, every promise kept. It lived in the partnership between 2 species who had learned that the highest form of civilization was not power or wealth, but the simple, profound act of caring for others. And across the galaxy, other species were beginning to remember that lesson too.